Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. I think we're ready to start our meeting. It's 10 o'clock. And so I'm glad for everyone here that's in person and also online. And I guess it probably makes sense to go around and do introductions. So what I'd like to do, excuse me, we'll start with Risa here and do the advisory council. Just introduce yourself, who you represent, and we'll go around and then we'll get the people online. Does that work?
Thank you. I'm Risa Weinberger with Risa Weinberger and Associates, and I'm representing the composters and the environmental educators.
I'm Richard McHale with the City of Austin, and I represent city and county solid waste agencies.
Good morning. I'm Steve Shannon, representing State of Texas Alliance for Recycling.
Good morning, Frank Pugsley with Park Hill, and I represent a professional engineer in private practice with experience in MSW.
Good morning. I'm Chuck Rivette. I work for Waste Management. I represent a professional with experience in operating a commercial landfill.
Good morning. Scott Pasternak with Burns & McDonnell, and I represent the general public.
Dave Yankee with New Gen Strategy Solutions, and I represent the financial community.
Good morning, Scott Trebus with Republic Services, and I represent a solid waste management organization specializing in commercial operations.
Good morning, my name is Chance Gooden. I'm with the TCEQ, and I am formerly the section manager of the Municipal Solid Waste Permitting Program.
It's complicated. Hey, I'm Charlie Fritz, Deputy Director of the Waste Permits Division in the TCEQ.
I'm Anna Yeras. I'm with the Municipal Solid Waste Permit section. Now go ahead and introduce everybody in the audience.
Sure. Oh, what about the advisory folks on? If you're on the line and would introduce yourselves, and I don't know how to do this other than we'll go first names alphabetical and see how that works. Yeah.
You gonna call us out, David, or do you want us to just jump in then?
I'll call out Tanel Atkins. Cheryl Murgo.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Murgo with the Houston-Galveston Area Planning Council, and I represent a planning region. Sorry.
Jennifer Lutz. And then, Richard Abramowitz.
Richard Abramowitz, RMA Consultants, and I represent the general public.
I think that's everybody.
All right. Anna, that was a much better system than mine, so thank you. The next thing we have on, the public. I just want to get into this. Yeah.
Is it on?
Good morning. This is Chandra Yadav. I'm with Municipal Solid Waste Permit section. I'm an engineer. Thank
you. I'm sorry, but it's very hard to hear the speaker.
I'm Burgess Stengel, Municipal Solid Waste Permit section.
I'm Chance Robinson, Municipal Solid Waste Permit section.
Mike Smith, also Municipal Solid Waste section.
And I forgot one councilman first, sorry, Judge Dillard.
You might want to ask him if he's on mute.
Are you on mute, Judge Dillard?
No, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, Judge Dillard, representing counties under 10,000.
All right. Great. So with that, we'll open and Charlie will do her report on the waste permits division update.
Okay, thank you. So 2 topics today. Sunset is talk about it every time now. We have gotten through the preliminary hearing that was in June. Yes, June. And kind of waste stayed below the radar, kind of how it has been since the SER was released and preliminary report from Sunset Committee. Kind of the big topics we see agency-wide is those first 2, and it's pretty clear, the trust in the agency, the public trust in the agency, and the agency's transparency. So going forward, I expect to see a lot of themes revolving around those 2 issues, agency-wide. In the first one, there's talks about 2 public meetings, more information on the website, just more information, more transparency from the agency. And so that's what we see probably going forward for the next 3 to 6 months, plus into legislative session. I don't know what's going to come from that, but it is going to be agency-wide. So it's not just MSW. This is an agency-wide issue on just public trust, transparency, those types of issues. So if we hadn't started the Title VI translation, alternative language, that probably would have been included too, but we had a jump start on that. So just continue to see, you'll still see a lot of those types of issues popping up. Next steps for Sunset, it's the committee's reviewing it.
Charlie, this is Rich. Just a quick question. Do you anticipate legislation coming out of the Sunset Review Commission?
Yes, there's always some legislation. I won't be able to, and we need legislation to continue the agency, but specifics right now and specifics for waste, I don't have that information. I wouldn't be able to guess right now. So that's our biggest part for Sunset. Internally, we're getting questions from all the members, and just kind of continuing to look at the committee's report, evaluation, doing meetings. So there's not a huge lift right now. It's more, we're kind of in the waiting round and reactive, waiting for questions, that type of stage right now. So, and then legislative session filing starts in November. Any other questions on Sunset?
Any questions?
Could you elaborate the 2 meetings? That's just a meeting before technically complete and another after technically complete? Is that
That's what was written, was a way, and it's a recommendation from the committee. So how it actually gets put in, if it gets into legislation and how we actually implement it is still pretty wide open. But that was the concern from Sunset, is that especially doing a public meeting after the draft permit, the public and this is coming from Sunset, the comments that they received, the public was submitting comments, and if you all submit permits, you know this process. Submits comments, goes to a public meeting all after the draft permit, and then becomes very frustrated when there are no changes. And so that's what Sunset was picking up on, the committee was picking up on, was that frustration of submitting comments and nothing changed. So that's where that recommendation of let's have another public meeting. So what actually comes from that is still anyone's guess right now.
I understand. Comments, of course, are received immediately, beginning with the technical review.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Incomplete.
Yeah, the comment period opens.
The public meeting, the yelling and shouting, of course, doesn't happen, but the comments can start.
Right.
They go on for a year.
Yes, and that's something, that's something we explained to them, that the comment period's open from admin complete until 30 days or public meeting. But and I mean, y'all see it too, of most of the comments come in at the NAPD, at that second notice, and then at that public meeting.
Fair enough.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got another text from another person saying, please increase the volume on the panelists' mics.
Do you hear that in the back about increasing the volume? Okay. Hopefully that'll be better.
Yes, please, when you're speaking, please have the mic directly in front of you, so that way, they can hear it a little bit more clearly.
Okay.
Okay. And then next part is the Mizrack resolution. That is, we've received it, and it's scheduled for the August 10th agenda. Backup documentation should be not this Friday, next Friday. So you'll be able to see all the recommendation, all the supporting documents. That'll be published on Friday.
Okay. So I know there had been some discussion on this, and you were talking about transparency, and so I guess, Steve, I'm gonna pass it over to you. I know there's been some discussion on this, and, you know, I'll let you kind of just take it from here.
All right, well, thank you. I'm encouraged to hear that it's going to finally be recognized and considered. I think that the Mizrack resolution is, by and large, supportive of the agency, supportive of embracing some of the recommendations that have been made by the Recycling Market Development Plan, and certainly STAR will be at their meeting. Is that on the 10th or the 24th of August?
It's August 10th.
August the 10th. All right. Well, we're very encouraged by that. I'd just like to iterate to everybody some of the main salient points that were revealed by the Market Development Plan. It says that we're recycling 27.5% of our municipal solid waste, more than 13 million tons a year. That just in collection and processing alone is having a $7.8 billion positive impact to the state's economy. And while, you know, TCEQ, folks think it's all about the environment, in 360, Chapter 360 of the Solid Waste Act, it also talks about economics. And I think that's the way that the Mizrack resolution is structured, is to move forward in an economically sustainable way in pursuit of these things. It also demonstrated that there are 31,000 Texans employed in collection and processing, not even including manufacturing, which is almost exactly the same number of Texans employed in the petroleum refining industry. It also reveals that we are experiencing, on average, a 25% contamination rate in our MSW collection, and that's essentially because of lack of any kinds of quality standards or harmonized public education and awareness. Folks are confused. So, speaking on behalf of STAR, we're very hopeful that the agency will embrace the issue and hopefully ask for a legislative appropriations to provide the agency the staff money that they need, the funds that they need to be able to embrace this, and to institute some other things that we think are appropriate, like a recycling market development board, a recycling market development center in the university system, and funding to the COGS to conduct harmonized regional sort of MRF shed education, so that we can hopefully reduce this contamination problem that's just killing the recycling industry. So we're very encouraged to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
So, as you can tell, Steve is passionate about this. We've met a couple times and talked since our last meeting on this. So we really, you know, he and I have talked, and I echo that. I hope that, you know, there gets some traction here where we can move forward, because there are a lot of good opportunities. Yeah, it's one of the issues, in funding for that is critical. So I wanted to let you speak on that, and I hear where he's coming from. Does anybody have any other questions or comments they'd like to add to that before we move on with our agenda?
Okay, Charlie, just one clarification. You said that packet would be published Friday tomorrow.
Anyone online can hear that?
Okay, sorry, yeah, I had it off, so. Yeah, my question was, when you said earlier that it would be published on Friday, is that tomorrow or a week from Friday?
Next Friday.
Okay, right, yeah, thanks for that clarification.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll move along. Okay. Well, the next item we have up, Chance, I guess you can give an update on the permit section and also any other news you have.
Sure, yes, thank you. Yes, you heard me correctly when I was introducing myself. I am the former MSW section manager at this, as of June 30th was my last official day. However, I'm still obviously got my fingers in a few things, and I have been called a traitor, and I'll take it, but I don't know if having almost a decade in this program can be a traitor, but I've learned a whole lot from you guys as well as many of the associations, and y'all have welcomed me with open arms and made a lot of great professional working relationships with each of you. So it wasn't a decision I took lightly. I was not really looking, but something popped up and was asked of me, and I got to thinking about it and thought, you know, I needed a change and learn something new. Didn't want to be in the way. We have a lot of talent in MSW, and it's going to be in good hands. Just looking at the, you know, over time, how many people have come and gone out of the program, I think it's time, because just looking at the org chart here, there's only 6 old-timers that are here that were here before me. So I've lasted. So those folks, Chandra is one of them, he's in the room, still will hold the line and be that institutional knowledge that the program needs to make sure that we don't mess up. So I appreciate all the help that you've given me over the years in learning what your needs are, and I appreciate that very much. So I'll just leave it at that.
Can you tell us where you're going?
Oh, yeah, yes. So those of you who do not know, I have not gone far. I'm still in the Office of Waste, but I've dipped my head into a little bit of a political realm of a radioactive division. So a little finite group, less sites, but a lot more detail-oriented associated with those sites. So if you haven't watched the news, uranium mining has gotten a lot of attention with the Russia-Ukraine conflict right now, and so there's a lot of interest in mining in Texas. So I'll be in the mix on that. Heading down to Corpus in a few weeks to look at some mines there. So I'm excited. It's something new. I've always liked change, and I try to seize all the opportunity that comes with that. And that's what makes this program that we're talking about today in MSW such a good program, because there was a lot of change that happened, and it's not me that made that success. It's the folks that are behind the scenes doing all the work, and they are the ones that get all the glory and the reward, because they saw the value in improving some things, and so all the thanks goes to them.
Well, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. I do appreciate, it's been 10 years?
Almost.
Yeah. Time flies. I keep saying that more now. But I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some new things coming up in that area, and so it'll be good to have someone like you involved. So wish you
have a lot to learn.
Yeah, well, anybody else? And
Chance, I just got to tell you that I've enjoyed working with you and your staff so much because of the approach that you take. You've got a terrific head in terms of, you know, understanding all of the implications of the many, many, many issues that get thrown on your desk. and your, professionalism and the collaborative, approach that you've always had. I can't tell you how much that's appreciated.
Thank you, Risa. Thank you for that.
Okay, just to echo everyone else, yeah, I agree. It's a good, almost decade. The section has been really good to work with. Everyone's been, it's been a great working relationship. And I hope the next phase in your career has a long and successful half-life.
Oh, wow.
Like that. It's good. It's good.
That's generous, Chan. Thank you.
Well, I am getting close to being eligible for retirement according to the state legislature's rules for state employees, but however, I'll still have kids in elementary school. So it would have to be something really bad to happen here for me to go somewhere else and continue working somewhere else to retire. So, okay. So there are a few things, my normal updates for the program in regards to staffing. You have your org chart there and to take a look. There's 3 vacancies. I believe one of them has been filled, maybe, and then the other 2 are in the process of interviewing. So one on Team 1 as a environmental permit specialist, and then 2 geologists or geoscientists in Team 2. And since we last met,
what is the timeline for replacing you?
That would have to be answered by my boss.
It's Charlie. We are working on it. It's so if you need anything, you can contact me. You can contact team leaders, Burgess and Nikki, or me. But yeah, we're looking. It usually it takes the agency 2 to 3 months. It'll be an internal posting, so it'll go a little bit quicker.
Okay, thanks.
So the last time we met, we had about 29 major projects that we were currently under review. Now we have a total of 30, 21 permits currently being reviewed, and 9 registrations. So, and we've had some updates to some guidance documents. Those that sign up for the newsletter probably saw that, but we have made some changes to the RG 605, which is requirements for registrations of transfer stations with material recovery operations. You can take a look at that. And then the other one is guidance document 606, and that's regarding types of waste that may be accepted at a municipal solid waste landfill. There's a table in there that summarizes the types of waste that landfills may accept. And rulemaking projects. So I was not at the last council meeting, so there was some discussion. We did receive some comments based from that discussion, and there's a document in your packet, I believe, where we've summarized some of the comments that we received. I don't know if y'all have taken a look at that before the meeting. We can have an open discussion. If you have questions about some of that, some dialogue about those things, we can. Just kind of where we are in that process, we're currently elevating a draft concept of what we want to do to improve the rule through management, but we haven't gotten in front of the executive management on if we're going to what we're going to move forward with. So that has to happen still. Once we get approval based on the concept, then you'll start seeing a lot more activity and having stakeholder meeting and rulemaking process will begin at that point. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Yes, sir. I have a comment about it. I guess that a lot of people in the recycling arena sort of understand how transfer stations or MRFs are classified as transfer stations. I guess just as a matter of convenience. But the fact of the matter is that those two facilities are only similar in that they both receive material and ship material. What happens inside the transfer station is essentially densification for long haul to a disposal site. What happens in a recycling facility is sorting that material, upgrading it for use as industrial feedstock. Completely different. So there's a lot of people that are very hopeful that the rules can reflect and be reflective of MRF operations as for what they are, and not merely as a transfer facility. So we'll be looking forward to that and looking forward to participating in that conversation.
Okay, sure. And you touched on recycling. That's the other project that we're working on, Chapter 328, and consequently, we're having a closed invitation-only stakeholder meeting this afternoon on that project. Be the first one that's being held on recycling.
Russ, a reminder to please speak into your mics. Please speak into your mics so everyone online can hear you.
All right.
Hey, Chance, just a point of clarification. When you were providing that overview, you mentioned that there were, I think, some proposed changes for transfer stations that do have the material recovery component to that. Could you just clarify or elaborate what that entails?
Which concept was that one?
That was RG 605.
Oh, on that. So
that was just, so that's a regulatory guidance document?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's just some updates. I don't know all the specific updates that occur to that.
Yeah, what I needed to understand is what Chuck just clarified, if it's a regulatory guidance document, so.
Yeah, that's not a rule change.
No, it's not a rule change at all.
A guidance document.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to
It's not even
get
a
that.
new guidance document, right? It's an existing guidance
It's
document.
existing guidance. It's making some improvements on what you need to submit an application. To how to prepare an application.
Okay.
Some of the things that we needed to improve. We had, basically, if we see a lot of the same deficiencies over and over in an application, we try to improve that application format in order to mitigate those type of issues. And so that was one of the reasons that was improved.
Chance, the stakeholder meeting on recycling, for my clarification, and I think I understand it, but that's not really narrowly focused on recycling of municipal waste from households.
No.
That is a broad recycling, tires,
328.
Everything, right? Hydraulic oils.
We're really looking at the stuff that is very low-hanging fruit under the radar. A lot of things that don't get inspections because they're meeting it by rule. We can talk about that this afternoon, but there's been instances where we've had fires in neighborhoods, and they were recycling paper and cardboard. So things like that nature. Just seeing if we need to beef up the authorization processes for that.
I just had any other questions there on the rulemaking? Going back, this is just to clarify, you mentioned 9 registrations that you had in CHOP. Now, are those primarily like transfer stations or what?
There's medical waste, there's transfer stations, there's compost, and there's liquid processing. So they're all under the Type 5.
Okay. And my question, and this is a question because we're seeing more cities starting to look at, do we need to build a transfer station? You look in the Metroplex as, the DFW area, Houston area, with landfills filling up in certain areas, still a lot of life, but limited in certain areas. Are you seeing more discussion or registrations for new transfer stations or proposed transfer stations? I guess it's probably a little subjective.
I would have to go back and look from years past.
We're hearing talk about it. I don't think we've seen the applications for them yet. I know we have one I know we do have one new one in-house, but we have been hearing the talk about it. I just don't know if it's translated into actual applications yet.
Well, and I'm kind of curious because we've got folks from Waste Management and Republic here, so I don't know, again, not sharing anything you don't want to share, but, you know, if there's more discussions internally and looking at those types of things. We're just hearing more from different cities, so.
It all depends on the market, and we are looking at some markets where it might make sense to do that, but, not any real plans to move forward yet.
You go with that, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to Subtitle D in 91, from the 88 rulemaking to the 93 implementation, what you saw was a huge consolidation of landfills. Texas went from 800 landfills to about 200 landfills, plus or minus. And we spent the next 2 decades expanding the existing remaining landfills, trying to make them into regional landfills that could manage. Well, that's been right at 30 years now. Yeah. And a lot of them are filling up. And new landfills are extraordinarily difficult to locate. So there's lots of discussion about, as facilities close and reach end of life, do you just shut the door? Do you put a transfer station in their place? So there's a lot of discussion. Not, as Charlie said, lots of drumbeat, but no one sees anything yet, right? Just a lot of talk and planning and thinking and wondering. In large part, David, a lot of private industry discussions revolves around not knowing what the municipalities are going to do, because they have an extraordinary ability to raise public funds and mess up a market almost overnight. Okay?
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that?
That includes my update. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. The next item was the Regional Solid Waste Management Plan update.
Good morning, everybody. Santos Olivares again with the Business Program section, and I'm the team lead for both of these programs. The Regional Solid Waste Management Plans from all the 24 COGs, we've received all 24 of them in-house. So we've got them all in-house. 10 have gone through the pretty much the entire review process, including the technical review and legal review. And so those, we are finishing up the all of the necessary backup material, and they're waiting for us to put them on the TCQ, the commissioner's agenda. And so we're thinking that those should be coming up here pretty quick. Once we get them on the agenda, we'll alert, of course, all of the COGs that their plan is going to be up on agenda. They won't be required to attend, but they will be able to view any of the discussion that comes up at that agenda. And again, the date, we're still working on that. The remaining 14, we're still working with COG staff. We're still completing our reviews, going back and forth, and many times just getting clarification on certain items that they may have related to strategies, related to objectives that they have included in the plan. And we're still aiming to get the majority of them done here quickly, but all of them hopefully by the end of 2022. So that's the report on the plans. The other thing, we also have our near completion on this is our scrap tire annual report. And this is the report for calendar year 2021, so January to December of 2021. And we do have a couple of highlights that we have been able to work through. So for this year, we've got just a little over 50 million tires that were managed. Again, our transporters, our processors, and our storage facilities are the entities that have to report their management of scrap tires. So that's the information. We're getting information from all of those. So 50 million tires this year compared to 47 million in 2020 and 44 million in 2019. So again, an increase in management. We saw 18 million or 36% of that 50 million going for tire-derived fuel. We saw another 14.5 million or 29% that went to crumb rubber production. And then we saw about 12.5 million or 25% being landfilled. Also, we have 117 unauthorized sites, and on those sites, we're estimating about 12.2 million tires throughout the state of Texas. And so, again, if the council wants more information on the annual report, it is on our website, and you can reach out to it or reach out to us, and we'll send you a copy of that. Any questions?
So let me just open it. Maybe we'll take the COG plans first, see if people have questions, and we'll take the tire. On the COGs, just curious, with all those plans coming in right now, are you primarily focused on just making sure they're complete versus looking at trends, and will that be done later, or how's that process work?
Trends related to?
Yeah, just, so for instance, first of all, you got to make sure they're all complete and you've got everything. So you get that taken care of. Are you looking to see, are there any trends that you're seeing with regard to the COGs across not just one COG, but several COGs, things going on?
Anecdotally, we kind of have, in our discussions, have seen that, and we do go from COG to COG, and we do kind of discuss those things. We haven't set up anything structurally formal, but that is certainly something that we're going to look at. We're also, with the comments that our legal folks make and also our technical folks make, we're also noting those as well in our discussions with the COGs. We've also had ever since we started this, we've had a series of conference calls with all 24 COGs, and we've been able to discuss those items with them as they come up. And so our hope right now is just to, like you said, make sure that they're all complete, make sure that there's clarification on some of those strategies or objectives that the COGs may offer or may present in their plan, and just making sure that everything is included. There's, I think, 14, 15 elements of the plan that have to be addressed, and that's what we're making sure that all of those have been included in there.
Well, it'd be great, and maybe for future, and it may be, this process, it's going to take another 6 or 9 months, I think, to get them all approved or what have you. But it'd be nice if, as a future item, maybe it's in 2023, but if you're able to come back and, give an update on here's some 2 or 3 trends we saw, and this is primarily in the, large urban areas, or this is an issue in rural areas, but these plans aren't done very frequently, so it'd be nice to see what came out of them.
Right, and that is one of the things that we have talked about and we have noted is that for a lot of the eastern part of the COGs, where there's very urbanized areas, we are seeing different elements of, for example, recycling minimization efforts, while on the western side, where things are kind of spread apart, it's a lot of rural kind of effort of getting folks into recycling, those kind of things.
Okay. Any other questions on the COG plan?
Refresh my memory, when's the last time the plans were updated? 20 years ago, 15 years ago?
Anywhere from 2002, I think we've got a couple 2007, but it's about 2002.
And so these plans will cover from 2022 until 2042?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So we don't do it very often?
No.
And David's right. It'd probably be worth not just having the plans, but analyzing the plans just a little bit and seeing, is there any hidden structural issues?
Right.
That need to be addressed by the agency or by anybody?
Yes, and not to get too far out, but, you know, the plans are used also for determining what local projects are funded through our grant program. And so we are seeing, you know, we're making sure that the strategies that are being put forth that they are going to be strategies that will be funded through projects later on. And so we're making sure that there's clarity in that, so that when those grant proposals come in to the COG from local entities and then to us, that they are addressed in the regional plan. So we are doing some of that, but yes, we are looking at analyzing and really coming out with trends, or at least a more better perspective of what the regional plans collectively, what their goals are, what strategies are that we can put together.
Excuse me, I probably understand, but I heard you say in the eastern parts, urban areas, recycling minimization. Do you mean that people are trying to minimize recycling, or that
No,
it was recycling and waste minimization?
Right.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
A question I have is, and I think it's, I actually sat on CAPCOG, SWAC, a few years ago when they started doing their solid waste plan. I think those plans are critically important, and it'll be interesting to see what they say. But in the agency's self-evaluation report, issue number 6, it addresses funding, lack of funding. And in there, the agency is recommending to take the money that's currently going to the COGS and internalize that, and basically cut the funding to the COGS. So it's fine to have these plans, but if the COGS don't have the funds to conduct, you know, the exercise of that, the application of those plans, their regional permit reviews, and their local government grants, it seems kind of like a conundrum. Can you comment on that? How you got these new plans, but no money to make anything happen?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Charlie.
So yes, issue 6 did address the declining fund balance in 549. It's something we've been discussing with the legislators since I think at least 2 sessions. It's kind of, we've been providing forecasting out, saying this is going to be an issue soon. I mean, back then it was in the future. Now it's become soon. So we did feel that the SER was an appropriate place to, again, bring this issue up on the declining fund balance in 549. So in the SER, we did propose one option, and that was changing the distribution percentage. So currently, right now, the tipping fee revenue that comes in, 66% goes to Fund 549, so that funds the agency's program. 33% goes to Fund 5000. That's for the COGS. What we proposed in the SER was a change in that percentage. So there would still be money going to 549 and 5000. We would just change that percentage. So we did not propose a full stop sending money to 5000. It was just a reduction to help give some more money to Fund 549 for the agency's program. And that was just an option. We have discussed other options. And so that was just a start of the conversation option. And like I said, we've discussed other options, other percentages, and other ways to address the declining fund balance. So that was, so right now, and I'll say it here, we didn't have one conversation with Sunset about issue 6. So it's still going to be an issue, and we will start addressing it with kind of doing what we've done before, just discussions with legislators. We're doing fee analysis, on the IHW fees right now. We've had a stakeholder meeting, a couple months ago. We're looking at those fees. In the future, we'll do an MSW fee analysis. I don't know what'll come from that, but it is a major issue for us on this declining fund balance, so I'm just gonna take some time to address it.
Just to be clear though, that item, what was recommended or laid out as an option was going from the 33% to 17%, so cutting what the COGS have in half.
Right, because currently, so there's the percentages and then what you see in the actual dollar amounts that go into each fund. And so the 17%, or I believe that's what it was, it would get close to what the current allocation is to the COGS each year. So it was bringing it closer to, because right now there's still a growing fund balance in Fund 5,000. So we were hoping to, we suggested it to bring it closer to the allocation that goes to the COGS.
Well, and then there was is there another scenario looking at going to 10%?
Okay, that's the number I was thinking, 17%.
There's both in here, so.
Okay.
Well, right. And again, this is just, I'm speaking for myself here. I don't think this is really a good idea. Mm-hmm. It's already been cut before, and, you know, we reduced the tipping fee from $1.25 to, 94 cents 10 years ago, and now we're surprised this is happening. I think this is a bad idea, but
Mike, please,
that's just
Mr.
me.
Charlie, could you clarify what you just said?
Mm-hmm.
The current allocation that goes to Fund 5,000 is not 100% distributed to the COGS now.
Correct,
Right.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I'm
the
going to use
David?
round numbers.
I would like to see some numbers on this, because we're talking percentages and percentages going down and dollars not changing in total to the COGS, and I guess I would like to see that, because I'm kind of questioning whether that's the case.
Let me
Not
check with,
saying you're,
I'll give you some round numbers when I check with Santos real quick.
Please speak up, Mr. Yankee, because I don't know if the staff heard you.
Okay.
Oh, so just please speak up into the.
Okay.
oh. Sure. No, it's on.
Okay, so the question was, I'll repeat, was just about the discussion on the percentages and actual numbers, between the two funds from Chuck and David. So it's something we can add an action item to get the actual numbers, but round numbers is that currently there is about, from the 33%, there's about 10 to 11 million going into Fund 5,000 per year. The allocation per year is 5.4, so about 5 to 6 million per year. So there is a growing fund balance in Fund 5,000 right now.
So to put it into language, the COGS are being allocated about 50% of the tip fees that are being pulled aside for the COGS. Okay.
So yeah, so the 17%, the 10% was closer to that annual appropriation, about the 5 to 6 million. But yes, this is something that, again, the agency, again, with the SER, is set up of, here are issues the agency is going to have to deal with in the next 10 years. Fund 549, declining fund balance is an issue. So we used that opportunity to start the conversation, tried to start the conversation. The reduction, the change in the percentages is something we've discussed before, but it hasn't been picked up. So that was the starting point that we used to start the conversation.
We've been talking about the rising Fund 5,000 for as long as I can remember, and that money is only released by the legislature?
Correct, yes.
And that's decided each biennium, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's not a TCEQ decision.
Right. The funding from 549, the funding from 5,000 are legislative appropriations. So we don't get to say how, we have to ask, we ask the legislators for the appropriations, and they make the decisions.
So I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus. It's just, in reading this, it would be nice, maybe in the next session I'm a very analytical person, so when I read percentages going down and you say the dollars are staying the same, it would be good to be able to look at it all together so we can understand what's happening. If we could do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. We can make a to-do item. We'll have some information on it next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and especially in advance of the upcoming legislative session, for the council to have that information, I think would be very timely. And it sounds like, Charlie, you all are continuing to try to figure this one out, because we, at least for myself, recognize this is a significant challenge. And at least my opinion is, and it's, I would think, shared by a number of the council members, the intent of this conversation is not to draw any of the funds away from TCQ, because I think we all recognize the importance of that, but to instead draw more attention to the need out in the regions.
Right. We have pages and pages of briefings on this. It's an ongoing conversation for years, so we'll compile and get that information to you.
Thank you. Any other questions on COG?
Mr. Chairman, Judge Dillard,
Go ahead.
being a member of COG, the money that comes into our area, especially out here in West Texas, has been beneficial, and we can always use more. We have lots of cleanups that COG produces for us and helps to keep our counties roads a lot cleaner and everything else. I just wanted to say that on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments online for the COG plans? Okay. Moving to the tire plan, I just had one question, and thanks for that information. I'm actually kind of surprised. You said like 29% is crumb rubber?
Yes.
Do we know where that's going? I'm surprised it's that high. I expect the tire-derived fuel to be a lot higher.
We do have, of course, we have Jenin up in the Houston area, but we have had a couple of other facilities that have come in, and one of the things that they are reporting is crumb rubber.
Okay. Anybody know anything on that?
Jenin puts it back into new tires, right?
For the most part, they've been putting it on AstroTurf field.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of AstroTurf fields. Yeah. And just a question, do we have a vacant tire position on this council? Normally we have a representative from the tire, I was just curious.
Yeah,
I think we do.
They
used to have someone from, I think, Liberty.
Yeah, he resigned.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been filled.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I just had one. The numbers just keep growing and growing to amount the astounding. I can remember when we were getting reports on the tire report, and it was 29 million or 28 million a year, and when we broke 30 million, and I have the same question every year. Do we think we're actually producing that many more tires? Are we just getting better at collecting the data of what we do have?
I think I'm sorry. Let me. Your question one more time.
Yeah. Are we really producing that many more scrap tires? Are we just getting better at collecting the data of what we do have?
It's really a combination of both. One of the things that we are seeing is we have seen a slight increase on the facilities that are coming in and registering. One of the things that we did add to our applications was this small box that said, "Is this due to an enforcement action or violation or something like that?" And so our regional offices are also going out to these facilities and making sure that they are registered. And when they are registered, we are being much more proactive and making sure that they do report in. So I think it's a combination of capturing more tires and also capturing more facilities and making sure that they're registered and in the program, and then also increase in reporting.
There was a concern several years ago.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, there was a concern several years ago from one of our council members from the valley that there was a fair amount of tires coming across the border. Do we still have that concern, or is that not really showing up in the data?
It's not really showing up, and the other thing is that one of the things, related to the unauthorized facilities or unauthorized sites, we're not seeing a whole lot of new ones, that are being identified. So I'm taking it that either that has ceased or we're capturing those, and reporting them in, but.
And we still have the one mega site out in Midland, Odessa with 5-6 million tires?
Yeah.
That accounts for about half of the bad tires, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're
this
right.
This is Rich. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Rich.
I was just gonna ask if you've done an analysis on the per capita generation of tires. You know, the Texas population is growing dramatically, so that could be another reason for the increase in tires, but has the per capita changed over time?
Might be interesting to look at the number of cars registered in the state too, and see how that correlates.
I have a comment
Right.
here from Cheryl Margot. She said, for next meeting, questions to CQ. Historically, what is the amount requested versus the appropriated amount available? And then Diane, to answer your previous question about the council, Jennifer Lutz is a registered waste tire processor who's a part of the Mizrack.
Thank you. Okay.
I didn't get, is there a question for me?
Yeah, I'll let you.
Oh, I'll repeat it. So Cheryl Margot asked, TCQ historically, what is the amount requested versus the appropriated amount available?
That's related to the COG plan funding, so. Yeah, we got it, Cheryl, thank you. Yeah, no, you're right on the tires though, because it used to be about a tire per person was kind of the rough rule of thumb. And so we're up to about, 1.5 tires, and it could be more registrations, but even there, I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting. And then just to be clear, any tire cleanups, I remember there was an issue where tire cleanups couldn't go to cement kilns or what have you, or some kind of rule, stuff got caught up what was legal, because if they were out there was a health issue because of vectors and mosquitoes. I mean, you guys are nodding, so I'm not just losing my memory, but is that still an issue? I mean, when you have that 44 million, does that include some tire cleanups where there's 1 million tires and?
So these are just the scrap tires that have been managed.
Okay. So no cleanups.
No. Yes, because they'll be in the managed numbers.
They'll be in the managed numbers, but these are these are the facilities that are required to report, and so yes, they are captured within the numbers when they occur, if by the transporters. So yes.
Okay.
And Dave, to answer your cement kiln question,
No.
We work with EPA to get clarification on, if you don't know the rules, the hazardous secondary material rules say that it has some weird language that says managed tires can go to a cement kiln, incineration burning for, that don't need advanced controls when it's from a managed program. So typically what they meant by managed was, properly sent from the generator through a transporter to the end-use facility. They had unmanaged tires, could not. They needed the secondary controls on cement kilns. And so that did prevent a lot of hesitation and flat-out refusal of unmanaged tires. So that originally it was from the illegal dump sites. We got clarification and worked with EPA to get that you can bring it back into a managed state with simple processing, removing, cleaning, washing, removing metals, shredding, which most of the cement kilns do want it shredded to appropriate sizes. So they can take them now they can take them now and just need that simple processing.
Well, that's great, and I want to tell you thank you on that, because that always is like, boy, if we want to get rid of these, that just seemed like a hiccup that didn't, so I appreciate all the work you guys did to get that done.
And again, we haven't looked at the data, so that you could probably see an increase in the cement kilns when we got that clarification, because it's been, I think, 2 years before COVID, so it's been a couple years now.
Sure. Any other questions on the tire report? Okay. Well, and my last question, so when will that be out?
We're hoping to have it out, here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Well, I just want you to know, I love reading that report, so I don't have much of a life, but, I enjoy reading it and looking at the stats, so thank you very much.
I can send it to the council when it's released.
That'd be great.
That would be super.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. The next item on the agenda was the landfill mining requirements for recovering materials and land from closed or active landfills. I believe this came out of a request from the Mizrack at our last meeting. So Anna's telling me that's correct.
Correct.
So, all right. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Appreciate your coming to give us an update.
Yeah, I'll be speaking on the topic landfill mining, requirements for recovering materials and land from closed or active landfills. I'll take questions at the end. Next slide. My goal for today's presentation is to explain what landfill mining is, describe the steps for establishing a landfill mining operation, and the applicable statutes and rules. I'll also talk about how landfill mining operation or facility is authorized. We'll see that a pre-application submittal that is required in the form of a test pit plan and a test pit evaluation report, and finally the required contents of the application form TCEQ 20876. That is the application for municipal solid waste landfill mining registration. Next slide, please. So what is landfill mining and why is it important? Landfill mining refers to the process or activities involved in the recovery of materials from a closed landfill for beneficial use. During landfill mining process, buried waste is excavated and processed to recover materials for reuse. This in turn offers various benefits. A closed landfill is a landfill that has stopped receiving waste and has completed closure activities. An active landfill is a landfill that is still receiving solid waste. Landfill mining has been around as a concept for almost 69 years, starting in Israel. No, please go back. Landfill mining has been around as a concept for almost 69 years, starting in Israel in 1953. In the 90s, interest in landfill mining started to grow as landfills became recognized as potential resource reservoirs. In Texas, there are more than 250 closed landfills and hundreds of active ones which are decades old. From an environmental perspective, landfills are well-known sources for various pollution problems, such as long-term methane emissions, and leaching of hazardous substances. Although those landfills are seen as possible sources of pollution, they could also be potential resource reservoirs and candidates for landfill mining. Next slide, please. This is a conceptual process diagram. Landfill mining activities can be grouped under three major operational stages. The general process will follow the excavation of the waste and separation of usable and non-usable items. Non-usable, including any hazardous constituents like batteries or CFC containers, will be disposed of properly. Usable items are processed for reuse, and combustible items are incinerated for energy recovery. Next slide, please. The major steps for establishing a landfill mining operation are as follows. First, you identify a candidate landfill, conduct necessary research on the type of landfill that you are dealing with, regarding acreage involved, capacity of disposed waste, and other historical information. If it is not determined to be a municipal solid waste landfill or a construction and demolition waste landfill, I would be skeptical. The result of your research will enable you to prepare a test pit plan. The test pit is a boring or excavation done to collect waste samples for testing. The test pit plan is submitted to the executive director, and approval shall be obtained prior to submitting a landfill mining application. For those who are familiar with the landfill permit application process, a test pit plan is similar to a soil boring plan. We'll see the list of contents for a test pit plan in upcoming slides. Upon approval of a test pit plan, collect waste samples from the landfill, perform lab assessment of the collected waste samples, evaluate the characteristics of the waste, estimate the quantity of the different types of materials, and submit the test pit evaluation report. The evaluation shall be performed by a licensed professional engineer. The test pit evaluation report is submitted to the TCEQ as a standalone document or with the application. The next step is to prepare and submit the application. This application stage involves public participation. The public may submit comments, and public meeting may be necessary. The final step is to obtain authorization and implement the activities in accordance with the authorization. Next slide, please. This table summarizes statutes and rules that are applicable for landfill mining activities. Texas Health and Safety Code Section 361.092 provides policy directions for materials and energy recovery from municipal solid waste. Section 330.5 in Municipal Solid Waste Rules classifies landfill mining activities as Type 9 facility and indicates major rule sections that apply for establishing a landfill mining operation. Section 330.63 in Municipal Solid Waste Rules includes landfill mining application requirements, including the contents for a test pit plan, test pit evaluation report, and process descriptions. Subchapter N in Municipal Solid Waste Rules includes specific requirements for landfill mining activities. I have grouped requirements for Subchapter N into 4 bullets, as we shall see in the following slides. Next slide, please. The Municipal Solid Waste Type 9 registration is a mechanism for authorizing a landfill mining activity or operation. First step is to submit a test pit plan and test pit evaluation report, followed by a full registration application to the TCEQ. We shall look at this in detail in next slide. Upon receipt of the application, we perform a preliminary review to check if the application includes the required materials like applicable TCEQ forms, parts 1 through 4 of the application, fee payment, etc. If the application contains all the required materials, a notice of application and opportunity to request a public meeting, or NAPM for short, is sent and published. A technical review is conducted. Public comments are received and public meeting is conducted if necessary. If comments are received, we prepare a response to comments and send to all persons who submitted comments. Once the application is declared technically complete, registration authorization is issued. TCEQ Office of the Chief Clerk mails the registration and the motion to overturn later to the applicant, adjacent landowners, and to other affected persons. For active landfills, can you click one more time, please? Yeah. For active landfills, in which the facility owner also owns and operates landfill mining, the authorization may be issued through a permit modification. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier slides, submittal of a test pit plan is a pre-application requirement. Test pits are excavated, and excavated wastes are tested to evaluate the characteristics of buried waste. A test pit plan should include a plan B map of the showing the location and extent of the waste unit and the extent of recovery operations, number of test pits, location of the test pits, depth, design, and size of all the test pits, backfilling descriptions for the test pits, and waste disposal descriptions for the waste excavated from the test pits. Please be reminded that the test pit plan must be approved by the executive director prior to the test pit's field work. Next slide, please. Test pit evaluation report submittal follows the field work. The test pit evaluation report shall include a description of the characteristics of waste, including the percentage of paper, plastic, ferrous metals, other metal, glass, other constituents, and soil fraction by weight. A lab analysis using the toxicity characteristic leaching procedure for the soil beneath the site and for each representative type of waste excavated. A lab analysis of the waste excavated from each test pit for asbestos and polychlorinated biphenyls. A plan view map as described earlier, and an evaluation of historical records of the landfill to include records of landfill operations regarding hazardous waste potential, special waste disposal areas, construction or demolition waste disposal areas, methane and leachate records, existence of liners, gas collection system, and leachate collection systems. In summary, a test pit evaluation report enables the applicant to determine the waste composition of landfill, the quantity of recyclable and non-recyclable materials in the landfill, how much of these materials can be separated out, and at what quality level. Next slide, please. Form TCEQ 20876 is applicable for a landfill mining registration application. We'll see the form in a minute. As part of process descriptions, you would need to include what materials are you going to process, quantity, screening, etc. How would you excavate deposited waste, material handling, sequence of excavation, list of reusable and recyclable items, and narrative on product distribution, reusable, disposable, etc. How will you handle processed water? description for management of odor, disease vector, landfill cover, and ponded water. The applicant shall contact Air Permit Division to obtain air quality permit or authorization or air quality standard permit to achieve maximum control of dust emissions from access roads and on-site roads, and to prevent nuisance odors from leaving the facility boundaries. Major design criteria is for the protection of groundwater. All the receiving, processing, post-processing, screening, and storage areas shall be properly lined. Liner system will consist of composite liner system consisting of a geomembrane layer of 30 mil low-density polyethylene or 60 mil high-density polyethylene, and recompacted soil of 2 feet thick or an alternate design approved by the executive director. The application shall include provisions for maintaining final product standards and shall include analytical methods and parameters, including for total metals, pH, salinity, pathogens, polychlorinated biphenyls, and asbestos. Sample collection methods and frequency, documentation, data precision and accuracy, and reporting requirements, including for annual and semi-annual reports. Final soil products shall be regularly tested to determine the product's grade. The final soil products shall be classified as grade 1 soil, grade 2 soil, and waste grade soil, and labeled for their allowable uses. The application shall include a closure plan. The closure plan follows processing facility closure requirements as prescribed in subchapter K in Municipal Solid Waste Rules. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is my last slide. This is about the application form that we published in mid of 2022. Application form TCQ 20876, that is application for municipal solid waste landfill mining registration, is available on TCQ website. Like other MSW registration, a type 9 registration will consist of 4 parts. Can you please pull up the application form? Yeah. Can you go to table of contents? Yeah. So part 1 of the application consists of general information. Part 2 of the application describes the existing conditions and character of the facility and surrounding area. Part 3 of the application is the site development plan, which contains design information, detailed investigative reports, schematic designs of the facility, and required plans. Unlike other MSW registration, Part 3 of the landfill mining application should address requirements contained in subchapter V and N of chapter 330. Part 4 of the application should address provisions of the site operating plan as required in applicable parts of subchapters B, E, and N of chapter 330. Each parts are provided with a list of attachments that we will see, which shall be submitted with the application form. Yeah. Can you scroll down all to 35 pages? This is 35 pages of form. Yeah, this is part 1. Please go. Yeah, these part 1 information are very much similar with the other part 1 form that we use for permit and amendment applications. So it is all about general information. So the signature page and all, and so, yeah, can you go a little up? Yeah, so this is the list of attachment at the end. So each part has a list of attachment because it's not kind of like just fill in the blanks type of form. So applicant will need to provide additional attachments to each of the parts, and that's listed at the end of each part. Yeah, just scroll down all through that. Yeah, it looks like this. I have one hard copy if you want to take a look.
Frank, this looks like a good job for an EIT.
Yeah, Frank did one. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yes. I think we pioneered a
Yeah.
lot of the things
By
probably
then-
included
yeah.
in the form
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah, late then, we didn't have this application form, though.
Correct, yeah,
Yeah.
and ours was part of a larger permit amendment. So that was a question I was gonna
Right.
have. The form looks amazing for a standalone registration, and is that what the form
Right,
is intended
right.
for, standalone registration?
Yeah.
But if it's a component of a, an MSW operating permit, all the same things are required, but the form wouldn't necessarily be required if it was a permit modification to an existing application?
Yeah, we have, I think you might have noticed in one of the slides, we said that we would allow permit modification, because if you are doing like you did for City of Denton landfill, because higher tier of authorization exists in there, and we do allow this permit modification, and for them, they don't need to complete part 1 and part 2. They can complete the permit modification form and complete part 3 and part 4 in this form.
Okay, thank you. So
That's
part 3 and part 4 of the form would
Yeah,
apply,
yeah.
but the landfills permit would cover parts 1 and 2.
Right.
Thank you.
So Scott mentioned, Travis, that we have you to thank for the 35-page form then.
It's more succinct than what we've got, I'm sure.
So I had a couple questions. Thank you for
Please.
the presentation. Just a question, you mentioned like there's the test pit that you've got to do. So how big is it that you have to do that? That's question 1. And then question 2, do you have to do that before you do the application, or you do the application, you do the test pit, and then you do more of the application? How does that work?
Yeah, it's very much similar like soil boring plan. So, I mean, it all depends on the consultant or the engineer who is doing that test piece, but it has to be, the sample has to be representative. But there are some specifications provided in 330-63 rules. So that is there. Like, it should be minimum of like 4 feet deep. There are some distances, numbers, so,
Okay.
yeah. That has to be representative. And what was your second question, please? Sorry.
Well, yeah, you touched on it, how big it is, but then, so if you have an area, do you have to do different areas if you're gonna?
Yeah, definitely, because
Yeah.
it has to be representative.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could vary.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other question, has anyone other than Denton done this in Texas?
Yeah, we authorized in 2016 to Wilson landfill, which was a closed landfill, and they submitted a registration. Denton one was a permit modification, which later was accommodated in the amendment, which we issued last year. And this Wilson landfill did that in 2016. And that was issued in 2016. They submitted, I guess, in 2015. And, but unfortunately, they didn't implement for the next 2 years. So by rule, we had to terminate that.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't happen.
Okay. I just had a question for the advisory council. I don't hear much about this. Again, I'm not an engineer. Is this something that's very cost effective? It doesn't.
He just answered that for you. He's had 2 applications in 10 years, and one of them didn't go through.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just say this. In Harris County, where there are some 500 closed or abandoned sites in the, COG inventory. There's hardly a quarter of a year that goes by that somebody somewhere, some developer doesn't say, hey, what do you know about this site over here? And we'd sure like to dig it up and make it into an apartment complex. And my answer to them always is, you should call here first and then decide. And Cheryl Mergel may know because they get approached at HGAC, but Cheryl, I'm not aware of anybody actually going through with it. Are you?
No, we have a lot of people call and inquire, and then no one follows through.
Okay. That's what I assumed. I'm a simple person. I just wanted to clarify that that was the case.
Well, it's hard to read the rules as they went by, but basically it's building, I mean, it's as complicated as a whole brand new landfill for the most part.
Yeah.
Maybe more so.
Okay.
As opposed to doing a subchapter T, which the front end of it is similar, where you still do the borings or the test bits, you know, to figure out what you're working with, if necessary, but you can build on top of a landfill without necessarily mining the waste.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, we're right on time. Final item we're down to 11:30. We've got some housekeeping here. Approval of the April 14th minutes. I don't know if you've had a chance to review them. I reviewed them. I only found one minor typo. Yep, sorry, Anna. Page 2 of 4, just to show I read them. Page 2 of 4 at the bottom, chapter 330 landfill. The third circle bullet should be requiring with an I. That's all I got. Otherwise, look great. I know. Well, you know, I read them. That shows I read them. If you've had a chance to review them, if I could have a motion.
I think Rich gave a motion.
Oh.
That's correct.
Richard, okay. Richard gave a first,
And
Richard gave a second. All in favor, say aye.
Richard and Richard.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, thank you. Anna, good job on the minutes. Second item, with regard to action items and Q&A, are there, before we go to public comments, the action items I had, and I'm not even sure I guess I should, Charlie, I don't know if these are even necessary for the next meeting, that might be down the road, but the update on the funding, that may or may not be applicable, just to get some information.
We can do the funding one at the next meeting, since it is relevant to the upcoming legislative session. The others on trends, analysis, both for
Right.
COGS and tires, that's gonna take a little bit of time. And I would love that if y'all have anybody that's interested as well, definitely reaching out for help on that one. We can talk about doing tag team, collaborative, so if anybody on your staff could help, we would appreciate that. It's something we can look into.
To be specific, what kind of help are you looking for?
Especially with the COGS, the COG plans, analysis of that. It will take a little bit of time, and it's something we can do, but it would help would greatly be appreciated.
Okay. When you get to that point, reach out to me and
Okay.
we'll see. Burns and Mac has all kinds of resources.
Thank you.
So, but yeah, let me know and see what we can do to help you on that. Okay. Any other action items? Okay. Any Q&A? Okay. Then we have public comments. So are there any comments from the public?
This is Rich. I don't have a comment, but a question about the Electric Vehicle Battery Advisory Council, and just what the status of that is, and if this group can get briefed on the purpose and what they hope to accomplish, and what the status of the appointments are. Now, I think there could be some overlap in the future. I just don't know. And so that's why I'm asking the question.
Yes, so the agency started EV, electric vehicle battery reuse and recycling advisory group. We accepted applications. Right now it's a closed group, so applications were submitted, we made selections, and a kickoff meeting is scheduled for the end of this month. The goal of that committee is, right now, the goal is looking towards the legislative session. We see the increasing problems with EV batteries, and lithium-ion batteries. So looking for ways to encourage the reuse, recycling of these batteries, and avoid direct disposal options. So that's and the goal of this advisory is to get a jump start with an upcoming legislative session. So looking for incentives, policies, roadblocks. So it's going to be probably 6 months, and then we will decide what to do with that group and input from the group on if we make it open, if we continue it, those types of questions. So right now it's closed. Right now the focus is 6 months legislative session, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, and the meetings are closed?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Oh, Richard asked the question. Thank you, Richard. So the meetings
Sure.
are closed, though?
The meetings are closed, so because of the direction we were given on focus on legislative session, get recommendations for that, we are limiting participation. Minutes will be put up. We will have a list of participants, meeting minutes. We will always take comments anybody can submit comments, but just due to the direction we were given, we are limiting participation for right now.
Okay. But the minutes would be available to the public?
Yes.
Is there a way to just keep us informed of that? Because that does bleed over into this area where I could see it problematic. And just anecdotally, I'll mention in our firm, our energy practice is pretty active, and they do a lot of work in California, and this is actually something they're tracking that's really they were like, if Texas is going to have, some of our energy guys were like, if Texas is going to have something that's a good thing, it's progressive, thinking about it. So they were like, Dave, keep an eye on it, see what's happening.
It's something we can see. I will say that this is TCEQ was picked as a facilitator because we are the disposal option. There is a lot going on here that is not even related to disposal. We're talking second-use batteries, reuse of batteries before we even get to recycling and recovering precious metals. So there's a lot of outside the realm of waste disposal and focus on this. So the direction again is legislative, anything legislative that can incentivize or inhibit EV battery reuse and recycling.
I've got to think on the market development side, with the study you did and the stuff you're talking about, I mean, there's the opportunities for the reuse of that material, and especially with all the limitations on some of these materials, a lot of them coming from Russia or Ukraine, which is kind of busy right now. That's something that'd be interesting.
Yeah, there's a big federal push on it as well. So from the EPA and Department of Energy.
Thanks, Richard. Scott?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that the recycling market development plan should have some information in there that could be of beneficial help. And then is the group charged with focusing only on the EV batteries as compared to, because we're also seeing lots of new facilities that are being built specifically for battery storage. So I could see those being, just as impactful, if not even more so than the EV side of it.
So when you say battery storage, you're talking the second use or?
Well, sometimes they are as a second use where you could take the EV batteries and then reuse them. But these are, like, say, if you want to capture more of the wind or solar energy that's being generated, to be able to store that, utilizing, what could be huge fields of batteries to do so.
Right. So it is a focus on vehicle batteries, lithium-ion batteries from vehicles, not necessarily any size of vehicles, but focusing on that and looking on one realm is that first reuse before going to material recovery. So using them as storage batteries. But we are looking at vehicle batteries here.
Yeah, I would just point out that there's also a lot of batteries that will be generated from like data centers that are similar to EV batteries in large format. And I'm sure you'll get all that information from the people that are on the advisory committee. But
right. So yeah, it's a good group. We have car manufacturers, industry, environmental organizations. So I would say it is a focus on that right now. But like I said, this is the drive right now is upcoming legislative session in Texas. Once we get past that, it's going to be we'll see where we go from there.
Okay.
Are the list of members going to be posted? Yeah.
Yes, we'll post that. We'll post the list of members. We'll post meeting minutes. First meeting's in late July, so August sometime. Members will be up there sooner.
Okay. And are you going to be involved then with it, Charlie? Okay.
Yes, I am involved with that.
Okay. Yeah, if you could just keep us informed, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay. Now, questions from the public.
Thank you so much for having public testimony. I hadn't planned on speaking today. I'm Jenny Lewis Ford. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Association of Regional Councils, representing the councils of governments in Texas. And I come in a friendly way, but also a frustrated way as I listen to the conversation about Fund 5000. $5.4 million per year distributed 24 ways does not make for a very viable program. And as TCEQ submitted their self-evaluation report, we did see that they do have an issue in how they fund their operations, and I very much respect that. But on the other side of the house, this money's been cut so much, and quite frankly, the way the legislative appropriations request process works is that the agency has to ask for additional money. And if the agency isn't asking for the money from Fund 5000 that's being collected to be appropriated in the manner it's intended, it's very difficult for those that are advocates, whether it's STAR or our group in educating, to get money out of the Treasury in that way. We have submitted session after session riders to increase the amount of money to go towards that program, and quite frankly, want to partner with TCEQ in that effort, but there doesn't seem to have been a willingness to ask for it. Over the past few sessions, obviously, budget constraints have been an issue on this state, and uncertainty. In 2020, if you'll recall, your Mizrack submitted a resolution to the commission to ask for additional funds. And at that time, during their commission meeting, when they took this item up, they were very supportive of the program, and there seemed to be kind of a display of that support by the commissioners with the idea that, well, now's not the right time because funding is tight in the state. I think you'll see today in the budget revenue estimate that the comptroller issues, which it may be coming out right now, that we have a lot of money in the state of Texas. And so my question to you all is, why isn't the agency asking for the money that's being collected to be appropriated in the way that it was intended? I'm frustrated. I'm friendly. We have talked to the agency about this topic, obviously, in meetings when we saw the self-report last February. And we also submitted comment to the Sunset Commission staff, and we also have submitted comment to the legislature. Although this topic specifically didn't come up during the Sunset Commission hearing, we very much submitted written testimony to continue support of the program and to show that solid waste report that we do and turn into the legislature, which I know you all have seen every biennia as we produce it. So it's frustrating to me because unless the agency really does support the program and ask for it in their legislative appropriations request, we're going to have a fund balance. The money's going to stay the same because the agency isn't asking for it as an exceptional item. And you all asked them to consider that in August of 2020. And at that time, it was put on hold. So my question is that coming back up in the LAR process? How is that coming back up? Is your concern about this topic that you expressed in 2020 being reevaluated, or is it just pushed off again? And we'll find ourselves in the same situation with the continued buildup of that fund balance. So that's all I really want to say. We stand ready, as always, to partner with TCEQ, and we are happy to help. I don't have specific paid staff for this topic, but we don't receive a grant from TCEQ or anyone else for that matter on this topic. But I am happy to help cull those plans to try to put something together that's representative of the entire state and the trends that we see. We're happy to be part of that collective process because it is important that the valuable work that you all around the state and the COGs around the state have put into these plans is showcased and collated somehow in a manner that people would digest, because I don't think anyone has time to read all 24 other than maybe the TCEQ staff that are fortunate enough to get to evaluate them all. So we're happy to help with that effort and stand ready to do so. But I come to you friendly, but quite frankly, just frustrated. I don't know how else to express the importance of this program other than to continue to say it.
Hey, Jenny, you raise a good point. How does money come under 5,000? It's very frustrating. It's been over $100 million for what, 10, 12 years or more?
Right.
Longer.
So some of it, there's multiple ways. The governor has authority and has exercised authority during disasters to take money from general revenue dedicated accounts for specific purposes, and he did that for debris removal after Hurricane Harvey out of Fund 5,000. The other way that money comes out of that account that I'm aware of is that the agency asks for it in their legislative appropriations request process, as I mentioned. So if the agency is only asking for $5.4 million per year, those that are the Legislative Budget Board and Senate Finance and House Appropriators who are making these funding decisions aren't going to say, well, hey, we have a bright idea, let's add more money to that, even though the agency isn't asking for it. It's very difficult from that position, even though it is a dedicated account with an intended purpose that we did see quite a few sessions ago, as was mentioned. The percentages were changed to offset what at that time was shortfall on the TCEQ side for 549 at the time that the tipping fee was reduced. And that was, the purpose of that was House Bill 6, I think, by Representative Darby, Chairman Darby at the time. And that was to reduce the reliance on general revenue dedicated accounts. Well, the only other way to get money out of dedicated accounts is to appropriate it. So unless we're asking for it, it's not just going to fall out of the Treasury.
So let me ask, thank you.
You're welcome.
Friendly and passionate.
Friendly and frustrated.
Yeah. Charlie, where are you in the appropriations process?
It is summer, so usually we are working on budgets, working on appropriations requests. Everything is pushed back right now because of sunset. So we have not started, to my knowledge, we have not started that process, but we can definitely, I can look up the information, get some more information. So I don't know exactly right now, and I could say that's because sunset has pushed everything.
Sure. Well, and I understand we have limitations as an advisory board. All we can do is provide recommendations, and we did a recommendation or resolution, whatever the proper term is, back in August of 2020. You know, my thoughts are that at least I would like us to see if there's an interest in doing that again. And is there anything more we can do? I guess I'll put it out there. I know we have limited, limited options or authority or what have you, but kind of open it to the group.
I had a question about the 2020 resolution. Do we need to redo that, or can we just resubmit it for reconsideration and review?
That was going to be my question, Chuck. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a first step would be to request if TCEQ could please send that back out to the members of the council. And then Charlie, based on what your timing is going to be with respect to the budget process, I think if we could please request an understanding of that to figure out whether we would need to potentially take any action prior to the next council meeting, or if we could afford timing-wise to wait until the next council meeting to have a comprehensive discussion about this and then potentially consider, another, request or, resolution to go on to the commissioners.
I can tell you, well, not for certain, but pretty sure that the next meeting's in October?
October 18th.
October is going to be late in the game.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be probably too late.
So then, could we, again, request that prior resolution be circulated and then consider, review that prior to the next meeting, and as appropriate, if the council agrees to it, decide if we want to take any action on either that prior resolution or an update to it?
Well, if I remember when we did that resolution, we did it outside the bounds of this meeting. We did that.
We just did a recent one. What was that one we just did?
For
Yeah, the recycling one we had to do via email. So what I would propose, to Scott's point, yeah, if we could just get the 2020 resolution, and then what I would propose, let Scott, Pasternak, myself, and Cheryl get together and look at it. And, anyone else that's interested, email me. But we can look at updating that, and then I can communicate with the advisory board, see if there's an interest in supporting that, and then probably get something done, though, by the first half of August. We should be in good shape. The recycling one, we were under the gun, but I think if we get this to you in the next 3-4 weeks, we should be fine, correct?
Jenny, if I may ask you, you're a better historian on this because you track it so well. The 2020 resolution did go to the commissioners, and they had discussion on it?
Yes, it went to the commissioners, in their packet. And
Okay.
they did,
Did
at that
they-
point in time, I seem to recall they took formal action to not adopt the resolution.
That's what I remember.
It's been some time since I watched it, but, although the discussion was very supportive generally, and so that at a later date, it could be I think the door was open for it to be discussed again. It wasn't a hard stop.
That was the part I just couldn't remember what the discussion was. I just remember them not taking action.
It wasn't the right time.
Yeah, not taking action. Okay.
Yeah.
And Dave, I'm very supportive of the idea that you had for you, Cheryl, and I to work on that. I would also, Jenny, if you're able to informally provide input to that resolution, we would definitely appreciate that as well. All right, thank you.
I'd like to say, if I'm not mistaken, that resolution that happened a couple of years ago was for 10 million. The recommendation was for 10 million of that to go to the COGS to help support their stuff, which, we need to back up and put it in kind of perspective. When the landfill tip fee surcharge was reduced from $1.25 to 94 cents, that represented an annual loss of about $11 million a year. That was 11 years ago. That's $121 million that could have been available. So it's no wonder the agency is struggling financially. At the same time, I was told recently by people that should know that as of the last fiscal year, there's $124 million sitting in the 5,000 account. Texas Solid Waste Act says that money is supposed to be used for these purposes. Now, I understand what happens. It gets over there and it sits there and it balances, helps to balance the state's budget. But I and many other people feel that whatever benefit the state is getting from that money sitting in the bank is not as large as the benefit that they would reap by investing the money in the advancement of solid waste management methods and recycling in the state, in an industry that through the market development plan has already showed it's having a $7.8 billion positive annual impact to the state. So I know it's always the conundrum is trying to get the appropriations done. They've asked already for $10 million, just so the COGS can continue life as normal. STAR and its stakeholders are proposing a legislative platform that would ask for about another $5 million for the COGS to conduct regional sort of MRF shed public education and awareness harmonization so that people can get on the same page about what is and what is not recyclable and why, so that we can help reduce this debilitating contamination problem that the industry has. So I would suggest that as this subcommittee considers that it might be not the $10 million that you asked for before, but to increase that to allow the COGS to be able to conduct other things that need to be done. And just back up a little bit, most of the COGS are centered around some kind of urban center, and that's where the recycling plants are, that's where the MRFs are. So it seems like, and they're mostly all taking the same stuff, it seems like that the COGS, through public-private partnerships in their area, can develop these MRF shed harmonized education and awareness programs so that there's not all this confusing information about what is and isn't recyclable and why contamination is a problem. So I would only suggest that as we consider reissuing a resolution that we consider it to be for more money than it was before.
No, I appreciate it. You just volunteered to help us, so thank you. And what I would, and then we'll wrap up, but you know, our action items on this, we'll get the resolution from you, the old one. Thank you, Charlie. And then we'll get together on this. I do think one thing that would be beneficial is we put the resolution together, but if we can put together potentially, and Scott, you and I can chat, but some of the, you know, just a 1 or 2 page, keep it short, but here's some proofs of why we're asking for this money and how it could be used from the recycling study. I think that would be beneficial. You can attach a 1 or 2 page to we won't make it a book or anything, but I think some sound bites to show there's a game plan to it.
Basically, with the resolutions, we take the resolution and, so as just, reference and attachment, attach those, because we take that and that is the backup documentation. We have to put the ED's recommendation on there as well, but we do that and then bring the resolution and any supporting documents.
Okay.
I have one question in response to what you said. How does the MSWRRAC committee communicate with the executive director? Does the chair get to speak to the executive director, or how does that, you can come up with a resolution and then it goes in a stack of many things that I know he's dealing with as being minuscule compared to the amount of work. So how does that communication, or does that communication happen? And I don't know if I can ask questions. I'm not trying to violate anything.
No, it's public. So basically the process is that anything that goes to agenda is, because it comes through the ED's office to the commissioner's agenda. So that is what we are doing. They always ask for ED's recommendation, but that is, so we take the information and pass it along and put it onto the agenda.
So the ED serves in an advisory role to them in saying staff's recommendation is A or B or C or something different.
Yep.
So if the motion goes before the MSWRRAC with a no, let's just say, whatever, not supportive recommendation from the executive director, and I'm not saying they rubber stamp his recommendations, but I'm sure that carries quite a bit of weight. I would assume. One would assume.
Our role is just, our role is a recommendation on the agency side, the operating side, so it is still just a recommendation. The commissioners are because this is a commission, we go through the commissioners to pick members, participants. The commission makes the final decisions on any resolutions passed by the committee.
So it could be helpful for members of the MSWRRAC that are passionate about this topic to visit with the executive director before his determination is made, because I think if he's giving a thumbs down or I'm indifferent, then with all the business that the commission tends to, they are independent and make their own decisions, but it could only be helpful to have a positive recommendation on this topic from the executive director.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever done that, but I'm open to that. I mean, I don't know how that works with councils, or if people do that occasionally.
It's complicated, and it's one of those where
We'll explore it more.
yeah,
That's fine.
I think that's we'll explore it too.
We'll talk about it. That's good.
Because it's one of those that, yeah, you can schedule something as well.
Yeah. Okay. That gives me enough information right now. Okay. Thank you. Is your microphone on? Should have a green light then.
Oh, okay. Better?
Yeah.
I know you're short on time, but I just want to share that I did make some comments to the Sunset Committee, and they were received positively. So I wanted to give you copies of, I don't know everybody's email. Is it on the website? Okay, so I could.
Their contact information's there. You can call them to get their email. But we don't put emails on the website.
Okay.
It's protected.
Okay, and I'm somewhat old school, so I just made some copies of the comments and an article that actually came out in 2020 based on 2019 data for the North Texas Municipal Water District's website. Apologize for saying so much. What was exciting is about a week before the Sunset Committee meeting, I thought, well, how has the numbers changed as far as the data on garbage per capita for these 5 cities? Has it improved or changed? And one of the cities reduced their garbage per capita by 15% within the last 2 years. And I believe partially because they realized they were at the bottom of the heap. It was Richardson, and they then passed McKinney, and now McKinney's in fifth place. And I need to work on refining that data, but it's there. When I've pushed for garbage per capita, I get resistance, and that the haulers feel like that might not be a great idea. But the data is already on the TCEQ website. Like, this is Itasca Landfill, and they do pull from 14 different counties. So you can see that data, but you just don't know the tonnage number. You don't know how much is coming from each of those counties. So you cannot generate a garbage per capita number for each city or county. When you do that, you're able to, again, like Richardson did, see your target and reach it, I think, more easily and more effectively by measuring garbage per capita than measuring all the recyclables. So I do appreciate, I did hold this up and rave about it to the Sunset Committee. I really appreciate this document and would like to see it continue to be printed. I would like to see it managed in-house and not, sent out to a third party to manage, because page 19 with the garbage per capita for all the COGS is a critical piece of information that needs to, and again, that Itasca landfill is causing the Heart of Texas Council of Government to have the highest garbage per capita in the whole state of over 13 pounds per person, which is incorrect. That's Dallas's data. That's Dallas's. And anyway, so garbage per capita is used in other states, and it's very effective. Thank you. Can I pass it out?
Sure. Okay. Thank you for that. While she's passing that out, I don't have any other closing remarks. Any other closing remarks?
Are there any comments from somebody online or by the phone?
Yes, Diane Barnes is online, and I've unmuted her.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Hello. I just wanted to just make one comment regarding the resolutions. The current one has in it the request for appropriations related to the, to the development plan. So when you're evaluating both the revising or updating the 2021 and then, against the new one, I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Diane, thank you for keeping us on the straight path.
Well, I don't know how straight, but it's just something that I remembered. It's like you're already asking, that as part of the plan. So asking for additional money for the COG, I mean, it's all going to come out of the same pot, right? So it's just how I guess you all decide to present it to the ED or to the commissioners to make sure that your message is clear on what you're trying to put forth.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And that's all.
All right. Have a good day.
You too.
Can I add that the data was received so positively? Garbage per capita includes reduce and reuse. It's just an easier number to track. That Toby did ask for a copy of the magazine, and I gave it to him, and he asked me for the revised numbers that were from this year, and I recommended a member of the panel for him to talk to further about it. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hey, Dave, just one point of clarification. I just realized, so our next meeting on October 18th happens to be on a Tuesday. So just to kind of calibrate that in your minds, not a Thursday.
Thank you. Any other closing comments from anyone? Okay. Our meeting is October 18th. To Scott's point, it got moved because of the STAR meeting was occurring. So thank you for working TCEQ so we could move that. Appreciate it. If we don't have any other comments, I'm going to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. We're closed. Thank you.